Trans people 3 times more likely to face food insecurity, according to U.S. Census. Transgender adults were 3 times as likely as cisgender people to experience food insecurity this year, according to new data analyzed by the Williams Institute at UCLA. The data, which was collected by the Census Bureau's Household Pulse Survey between June and October 2021, showed that more than a quarter of transgender adults in the United States reported, sometimes or often, not having enough to eat, compared with just 8% of cisgender adults. Trans people of color were especially vulnerable. Nearly 36% experienced food insecurity. At the root of this, researchers say, is a web of discrimination that leaves trans Americans impoverished and unable to access food. Roughly 30% of trans people live in poverty, the Williams Institute has found. The data showed that less than a third of income-eligible transgender people were enrolled in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, though the federal program is intended to keep people from going hungry. The data shows most trans people aren't using it. The National Women's Law Center found last year that trans people face numerous challenges applying to and using SNAP benefits, including providing documentation or ID that matches their identity. Trans people may also struggle to meet the work requirements, which were tightened under the Trump administration. Shocking. SNAP recipients must work 20 hours a week, but trans people are 3 times as likely to be unemployed, and more than 1 in 4 have lost a job because of bias, according to the National Center for Transgender Equality. What's interesting about this is I sat in on a dinner that we hosted at Boner Italian Restaurant for SunServe, and it was all trans women, most of who, if you know Fort Lauderdale, live further west, have less access to services because of the distance and because of economics, can't really get to the services that are provided in a community like ours, which provides more than most when it comes to support services and access to food. And just the economic, what they're saying here, this economic issue really can act as an even greater barrier.
Mm-hmm. And if you're going to face the challenges of not being able to get these type of services from the government because of your IDs not matching and not being able to get work because you're discriminated against, this is a huge problem. And we see that a lot of social services, whether it's the SNAP program or many other things, if your identification doesn't match because you haven't had the ability to do a name change or you haven't had the legal representation to do a lot of these things, you're cut out of those. So it's a huge issue, and I encourage everyone to support a lot of our trans organizations out there that help a lot of people in the trans community who do face these challenges.
Well, and piggybacking on what Jeff says, we have to say a big shout out and a big thank you to the organizations like SunServe, like Trans Social. The reality is that a lot of the people in our community, LGBTQ+, don't trust the government. Okay, so it's one of those things where it's like with an organization like SunServe or Trans Social, they'll be able to guide you through the name changes, all those documents that you need. To apply for SNAP, at my worst time in life, I tried to apply for SNAP, and I have been working since I was about 14 years old. Okay, after jumping through hoops and trying to show all this documentation that was needed, I got given $39 for a month to buy food. Okay, it's staggering what you end up with, but the reality is something would help you. So again, thank you to these organizations that do this. I hope that in the future the trans community doesn't have to be so scared to ask for help. The reality is that these statistics are staggering. To think that 3 times more likely to be unemployed. That is the true statistic in the trans community. Most can't find jobs. Most become sex workers because of the lack of job opportunities out there. So this story really sad. It's really sad and really hits home. I hope that these stats change for our brothers and sisters in the trans community for sure.
LGBTQ+ news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ